All right, let's talk about a problem that drives every QA engineer crazy. You've set up your Playwright projects to run in parallel, you're seeing all those workers spin up, and you're feeling good, but your build is still taking forever. And when you finally track it down, it's one giant test file, just grinding everything to a halt. What if you could fix that with just one line of code? Well, today we're going to do exactly that.
So what's actually happening here? You see, while you've told Playwright to run your files in parallel, it has a little safety feature built in. By default, all the tests inside a single file run one by one sequentially. It does this to stop tests from messing with each other, which is smart, but it also creates this massive bottleneck when you have a file full of independent tests. It's so frustrating, especially when every second counts in your pipeline.
So this really shows the two worlds we're talking about. On the left, you've got the default behavior, a slow, single-file line where every test has to wait its turn. But on the right, that's where the magic happens. That's the smart way, where every single one of those tests runs at the same time. The performance jump here isn't just a small bump, it's a total game changer.
To really get this, let's use an analogy that'll make it stick. Just think of your test suite as a super busy restaurant kitchen, and each of your tests is an order coming in from a customer.
Okay, so in the default mode, it's like having just one chef, our little worker process, handling a really long list of orders. Now this chef is dedicated, but he's got to take the first order, cook it perfectly, and send it out before he even glances at the next ticket. It doesn't matter if you've got a dozen other chefs just standing around waiting to help. For this list of orders, it is strictly a one-man show.
But when we flip that switch to parallel mode, it's like yelling all hands on deck. Suddenly, all our available chefs, our worker processes, can grab different orders from that same long ticket and start cooking all at once. You got one chef on the fries, another on the burgers, a third on the shakes. What's the result? The whole meal gets out to the customer way, way faster. Our test suite finishes in a tiny fraction of the time.
Okay, so we get the problem, we get the goal. Now for the best part, the fix. You might be bracing yourself for some big, complicated code change, but honestly, it's almost laughably simple. It all comes down to one single, powerful line of code.
This is it. This is the whole trick right here. You just add test.describe.configure and you set the mode to parallel at the very top of your test file. You're basically telling Playwright, hey, for this file and this file only, I want you to ignore the default rules. I'm giving you permission to unleash every worker you've got and run these tests all at once.
Theory is great, but talk is cheap, right? Let's look at the actual numbers and see the massive impact this one little line can have in the real world.
So here's a pretty standard test file. Let's imagine it has 10 totally independent tests, and each one takes about 12 seconds to run. You know, one test checks the user's avatar, another checks their bio, a third checks their contact details. You get the idea. Sequentially, well, you can probably do the math in your head. Yep, 10 tests, 12 seconds each, that's 120 seconds. 2 full minutes you're sitting there waiting for just one file to finish. And that's on every single run, every time you push code. That time adds up fast, and honestly, it's just wasted time.
And now we apply the fix. Look, the tests are identical. The logic, the assertions, nothing has changed except for that one line we added right at the top, unlocking parallel mode for this specific file.
And would you look at that? We just went from 120 seconds down to 35. Now you might be thinking, hey, why isn't it 12 seconds? And that's a great question. There's always a tiny bit of overhead for spinning up those new workers. But who cares? We just cut our execution time by over 70%. That's not just an improvement, it's a revolution for your feedback loop. Your project manager is going to love you for this. Now hold on. Before you get all excited and start pasting this line into every single test file you have, you need to listen up. There is one golden rule you absolutely cannot break. This is the insider tip that separates the pros from the people who end up chasing their tails, debugging flaky tests for days on end. And that golden rule is test state independence. You have to burn this into your brain. When these tests run in parallel, each one is in its own little isolated bubble, its own worker process. Think of them as running in completely separate, soundproof rooms. They can't pass notes, they can't share data, and one test absolutely cannot rely on something another test did. Every single test has to be 100% self-sufficient from start to finish. And this is where everyone trips up. This is the rookie mistake I see all the time. Someone will try to create a user in test 1 and then use that same user in test 2. In parallel mode, no way. That will fail every single time.
But the biggest trap of all is the beforeAll hook. You might think it runs once for the whole file, right? Wrong. In parallel mode, each test runs its own beforeAll and afterAll. You have to treat every single test block like it's its own little mini test suite.
Okay, we've gone through a lot, so let's just boil this all down into a super simple, actionable plan you can use to start making your tests faster, literally today.
It's really just 3 simple steps. First, identify your bottlenecks. Find those slow files that are full of tests that don't depend on each other. Second, configure them. Add that one magic line of code right to the top. And third, and this is the most important one, verify. Double and triple check that those tests are truly independent and share absolutely nothing between them.
And that's it. It might feel like a tiny change, but I promise you, mastering test independence and knowing when to use this feature is what separates a good automation framework from a great one. Get this right, and you are already way ahead of the curve. So go on, find a bottleneck, and crush it.